Hello, I wanted to give you a quick overview of kind of how to navigate Genius, Buzz, and then also how to kind of really meaningfully interact with the Florida virtual content. So when you get into Genius, make sure that you check your messages for the day. That will be where your instructor will have reached out with any kind of updates or information. So check your messages every day. As you end up in Buzz, you're going to get to your different courses. And within the courses, it's important to note that there might also be some updates on this landing page. So always start there and make sure to review any videos or letters posted there with updates on the content for that week. My suggestion would be to go through on Monday all 4 of the areas and look at the deadline for what will be due. So that's going to help you understand, really where you're going to want to go for the week. And so for this week 1, we've got a little bit less content, and what we really want you to do as you're getting familiar is to go through all of this getting started information. So you're going to start here with these important videos, and then you are going to go through this content on how to work with the Florida virtual content. So that's really important to, even though they seem a little tedious at times, to go through that in one class. Go through every single one of these so that you understand how to navigate. Then moving forward week to week, you'll look at all 4 of your subjects and you can make a plan based on the content that's in there. Okay, so you could say, okay, I'm going to do all of language arts on Monday, or I'm going to do the content on Monday, the quiz on Tuesday, this content on Wednesday, this assignment on Thursday, and I'll finish it on Friday. So making yourself a little weekly plan for each of the 4 subject areas. Now, once you get into the content, kind of making that plan, you're going to find that there are 2 different types of things that happen before you do your final kind of either quiz or whether you do your final assignment submission. And so what you'll see within is that you actually really do need to go through all of these pages, because they are going to have practice pages within. And then they're also, especially like in a class like language arts, they're going to build upon each other, where maybe you're given your prompt here in this week, and then in the next set of content this same week you're given your graphic organizer that you start, but maybe you don't submit it until the week after. So if you're just going directly to the quizzes, or if you're just going directly to the assignment that's due, you're not building upon all of that great practice work. Now, that's especially important for language arts, but do note that like in math, you might get to a practice page, over to a math lesson here. It shows you that you have 7 pages to navigate. Usually there's anywhere from like 1 to 14, usually a little bit longer in language arts. And so as you click through, there is actually a quiz due at the end of this one, but within you might come across interactive things that you're doing. And you might also come across a page that you would print and complete. And so that is not necessarily the thing that's going to be assigned or submitted, but it is a practice page. So your options for doing this are to go ahead and print this off and complete it, or you could complete it in your interactive journal. So maybe you just kind of copy the format and write in the answers. So for language arts and math, you could go ahead and science and social studies, for the practice pages, you could go ahead and do that in what they call an interactive journal, which is really just a notebook where you write in your answers. So if printing becomes an obstacle, practice pages are one thing that you can do directly into your interactive journal. And then they'll also just reference some things that you just do into your interactive journal. But for practice pages that you don't submit, feel free to do that. When it gets to a point where you're actually submitting, where you're going to find that for most classes, well, all of the classes, is usually on the last page. It'll tell you what you're going to be doing. So for this one, it's a quiz, but maybe in another class it would be, or in another week, it might be that the final thing is actually one of these submitted pages. So for that one, you're going to want to actually print that final page if possible, or really recreate it as best as you can. And then you're going to submit that one. And there's always a rubric that you know what you're going to be assessed on. And so then you would want to scan and upload this so that I could grade that. And especially for things like math and language arts, it's really important that you scan the finished things so that I can see your work or see your writing. So don't read those things off. go ahead and scan and upload that. Alternatively, if you come across practice pages and final assignment pages for science and social studies, I'm very comfortable with you reading off the question and then talking through your answer, because I'm not assessing your writing. I'm assessing your thinking about that content. So if it's appropriate, at times it might be that you can record a video of yourself in science and social studies talking through a worksheet, just bopping over into a science set of content. This one had 10 pages, so you stop clicking once you get to the 10th of the 10th page for that particular set of content. It's got the final thing that's going to be due and the rubric on what I'm going to be focusing on. And you might decide to go ahead and print this off or use a PDF editor, or maybe you do recreate the worksheet within your interactive journal. But I'm also okay with you kind of writing some notes here into the answers and then reading this to me. This will also be where you find the materials that you need for something like a science experiment. So when you get to that page, it'll tell you the things that you need to complete that science experiment, okay? So if it is not a submitted assignment, it is a quiz. Note that quizzes all throughout the content you get 2 attempts on, and I'm okay with parents reading the questions and answers, talking through those things. They're really an extension of learning at that point. And so they're, an ability for you to reflect and think about what you learned in these content pages. But when you get to a final module exam, that's when it needs to be done on your own. So once it's a final module assessment, that needs to be independent and done by you alone, so that I can really see by yourself, do you understand these concepts, okay? The one caveat is that I do feel comfortable with parents reading the math and science, science and social studies questions and answers, but please do not support in any way with how to answer and how to respond. Those need to still be completely done independently, where a student, even if they're getting it wrong, needs to just be able to enter the wrong thing so that I can see what still needs to be reviewed. So those are the kind of overviews for quizzes, assessments, practice pages, and the interactive journal. And then beyond that, during the week, if you have questions about the content, please feel free to bop into that virtual lab time, okay? Because I can definitely help you with the practice pages. And one thing to know is that if I sit down and do a practice page with you on the virtual call, we might decide in math that we're going to do 3 of the 5 problems. If I see that you're understanding all of it, you might be able to move on, especially since that's something that you're not going to submit. When it gets to that final submitted assignment, right, something here where you're actually looking on that last page to what is the thing that I have to turn in, that would be where you need to go ahead and complete the whole thing. But if you're doing a practice page, it might be that you do it orally with a parent for science and social studies. With math, it might be that you're doing, 5 of the 7 problems and you see you all got them right, and then you're moving on because it's not something you submit. With language arts, it really does build on itself. So you want to go ahead and do all of what it asks bit by bit, because especially for writing assignments, it's going to have done a little chunk of that writing project each content area page. And so then you're going to submit it later on, and it might not be submitted that day, but you're still going to need to have done it because it'll reference back to that later. So if you need help, join those virtual hours, but that's a way to kind of think about how to pace yourself, that each week you're going to look at what each content area needs and has to do. You're going to go through each page by page. You're going to do the practice pages in your interactive journal just to make sure that you've really got it. And then you might move on in the areas of math, science, and social studies. With language arts, you're really going to do every part. And then when it comes to submitting for science and social studies, I'm comfortable with video submissions to kind of talk through worksheets. But then with math and language arts, you're going to scan and upload those final printed documents. So hopefully that's a good overview of kind of what you're stepping into. And if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out. Some of it is just kind of getting in and getting started. But hopefully this gave you a little bit of an overview that'll get you ready for this first week.